the average person will spend 6 months of their life waiting for red lights to turn green.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a long time.
It's a long time.
A whole half year just to wait for the light to turn green. But, I mean, cars definitely get you there quicker than a bus.
No wonder why I go through them more.
Welcome on, Ray. Sir Ray. It's great
How
to
you
have
doing?
you here. I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Hey, let me, all right, that should be better. Okay, so today's question, you still don't know it, which is really fun. It's, what do you feel a deep connection to? What touches your soul and impacts you profoundly? So once again, what do you feel a deep connection to? What touches your soul and impacts you profoundly? So now we will give you a whole minute. Think about it. If you want to skip it, you can. It's all up to you. All right. So, once again, the question, what do you feel a deep connection to? What touches your soul and impacts you profoundly? So, the first thing I thought when I saw this question, I was like, oh, that's Disney for Ray. Nothing else. Podcast is done. But basically, when I saw this question, I was actually kind of scared of it. I was like, I don't even know, like, where to start. Like, connection to what? So, the first thing I thought of was, like, a human connection, because like that's what I found to be the most relying with, because I don't feel a connection with anything else. Like there's a lot of materialistic things that people I feel like have a connection with,
Right.
but I never had a connection like with my phone and social media and stuff like that. I don't feel a connection. I just feel like it's just there. So I don't know.
See, I don't know. I think it's going to depend upon the period of life when you get that kind of question. Because had I been asked that question 30 years ago, the answer that I would have gave would definitely be different than the answer I'm going to give.
Yeah, that's why it's very interesting, because you're much older. So if you don't know, Ray is, what are you, 60 at this point?
Yeah, 60.
60, yeah.
60 in January.
So he's 60 and I'm 20. So we have a little bit of time.
Slightly 40 years older than you are.
Yeah, we have a little time in between us. So wait, I want to get your 30-year ago answer first.
All right. I think that depending upon, I would say when I was your age, we'll do it that way, I guess.
Okay.
During the period of my life.
Yeah.
When I was your age, it would have been school.
School. So you had a connection to school in what way?
In a big way that, because I was the first person in my family to graduate high school.
Okay, that makes sense.
That was a very big deal for my parents.
So more of high school than college?
No, just education in general.
Education, okay.
Neither one of my parents graduated high school. My two older brothers didn't graduate high school.
Okay.
And the reason for that is not because they were stupid.
It's just because of the times.
It was at the times, and to back that up a little bit, I am the first male member, and really female member, but I'm not female. I identify as male. First person in my family not to serve in a war.
Oh, okay.
My father was in World War II. My mother was a
Wait, what year were you born?
1960.
Oh yeah, so you were after that.
Yeah. My mother was in the USO, and then from that she went to the WACS, the Women's Army Corps. She obviously back then women didn't serve in battle, but they did other things.
Yeah, they did a lot of like the. Isn't it a lot of?
They did a lot of the background stuff.
Factories type of stuff.
Factory stuff. My mother made the bombs that my father dropped on Germany.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and my two brothers were in Vietnam. My aunts and uncles, all my aunts were waves. My mother was the only one that did the Army Corps, and all my uncles were in World War II.
Wow.
My cousins and all of them, they served in various capacities. And the reason that I didn't serve is not because I didn't want to. I actually wanted to.
Yeah.
But I have a sight disability. I was blind in one eye.
Mm-hmm.
And back then they could discriminate. Again, I shouldn't even really use the word discriminate. They could hold that against you.
Which kind of makes
As
sense.
serving.
Like if you can't see out of one eye.
Right, I agree. And my argument was all I have to do is shoot the enemy. So what's the difference? I have one good eye. I don't know if they could do that to me today, if they could disqualify me in that way because of the Disabilities Act.
Oh, they made a law about that?
Yeah. Or that, but that, again, that came after the fact that...
yeah.
You know.
Well, that's interesting because if you go into war and then you get your eye shot out, you know, can you still go back
right,
into
can
war?
you still go back into war?
Because people get injured all the time.
Yeah. My father had shrapnel in his chest, yet he was still flying planes and dropping bombs.
Yeah. So yeah, that's very interesting.
But it's wartime, you know. When I was there, it was peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. They needed people. They weren't going to be like, oh, you're blind in one eye. Yeah. At your point, that was more like the hippie movement, right?
Right. Yeah. I was a little young for that movement.
Yeah.
But I remember it. I remember it well.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure you definitely remember it a lot.
I hugged the trees in Central Park. You know, I was never an anti-war protester because obviously my family was, you know, very pro-military. But in time, it's interesting as pro-military as my family was in time. And now this would have been the late 60s, maybe 1970. A noted difference in my father's opinion about the war started taking place. When I went into high school, my father told me, he said, the first thing he said, if I get drafted, that they were going to support me and send me to Canada. So because you're not serving the war.
Oh, wow.
So it was interesting that, you know, that attitude was not just on young people back then. It was on everybody. You know, it was a growing movement.
Why did he want that, though?
I don't know. And I think it probably has something to do with the fact that my two brothers were in places they were not supposed to be. They were both in the Green Berets. They were in Cambodia. They were in Laos. They were in Thailand, which was not where the war was going on. The war was going on in South Vietnam. Yet they were part of divisions that was doing stuff in these other places.
And they were just there. They weren't really doing much.
They both eventually became prisoners of war.
Oh, man. Those stories are crazy when you hear about those.
And the one thing, my one bad memory of that whole period of time was my mother dragging me back and forth between the Pentagon, some army building in Washington, D.C., and the Red Cross, because nobody was giving anybody information. And I think about that time was when my parents started souring on the whole army issue with me.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So, yeah. I mean, we were starting with school. That's how we got here.
That's how we got here.
Sounds like you have more of a connection to war and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know, right? It seems that way. But I still am pro-military. And if they asked me today, would I go? I would go right now. I would go right now. I would do whatever my country wants of me.
I don't know if I would. I would kind of have to go if I got drafted because that's the rules.
Right. Well, you still have to fill out the papers today, right?
What papers?
The registration papers or something like that.
What, to be drafted?
You know, so they know where you are.
I don't know. I haven't really filled out papers in a while.
You may want to look into that because I think there's a law.
Damn. I'm going to get arrested for that.
They may come knocking at your door right now when this podcast goes live.
I feel like they know where. I have a phone. They definitely know where I'm at.
They know where we all are.
Yeah, so
I got a little bit older.
Yeah.
Then obviously my connection would be with marriage and that. And I did that for a little while. Well, it's
Wait,
not like
so what age did you get married at?
I was 26.
26?
Yeah, about 26. 27.
That's actually kind of, I don't know, it's not late.
But
for your
time. For my time, it's late.
Yeah.
For my time, it's late.
Because it was, more like 22?
Yeah. Because I like to feel that because I'm the more or less like the end of the baby boom. It was like people like my age in the early 60s that started this trend of
marrying
late
later.
marriage. Yeah.
Which is cool.
Right. Today's even later, which is good.
Yeah.
Don't get married young. Not that I didn't have a good time. I did. And that lasted for a couple of years, but then, you know, I don't know if you know, my wife passed away.
You've actually never mentioned that.
Yeah. It's not, you know, how do you bring that up in polite conversation?
Yeah.
By the way, my wife died. You know? Okay. Nice to know. Yeah. So that happened. And she was pregnant as well. So I lost both.
Oh, damn.
And then after that kind of like, I guess, affected me very emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And I had vowed then that there was no way I was going to put myself through that again.
Wait, so did you have like do you feel like there was a connection still with your wife even though she passed away?
Oh, definitely. Because I've had my fun in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I always end up comparing, which is not a good thing.
Yeah, comparing is horrible.
Yeah.
You always have to,
Yeah.
if you want to compare, you only have to compare the incidences in your life.
Right.
So
But
like,
I know that I know that was one of the problems too.
mm-hmm.
And I also know that psychologically it affected me too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I never wanted to go through that kind of pain again.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have been different had I lost one,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah, because you have the other to hold on to. Basically.
right. So
Yeah, that's rough.
here
Oh my
I
God.
am, wild and free at 60. But I like it. I have my my little liaisons, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say that I'm sad. I can't say
That you're
I'm
happy.
over ecstatic.
Yeah.
It is what it is, but I'm happy,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what matters.
What age were you when this happened?
Let's see. I was married when I was 26, so 31, 32.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's so rough.
It's young.
How long did it take you to overcome that?
I don't know if I'm overcoming now.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because, people are like, oh, it takes years.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah.
obviously you've had about 30 years
Yeah.
at this point
Yeah.
to get over it.
Yeah. But I think at one point you just get to the point where you accept that
Mm-hmm. That happened.
it happened, and you either make that. I think it's a conscious choice, and consciously I decided I just did not want to deal with that kind of pain anymore.
Mm-hmm. And you were never ready to go into another relationship.
No, there's been one or two, but again,
Yeah, you were like, it's not worth it, because
Yeah.
if that pain happens again,
exactly.
you would probably go into like a very deep depression
Yeah,
at that point.
yeah.
And I'm sure you did that right away
Oh
when
yeah,
that first
yeah,
happened.
yeah,
Damn.
yeah.
Yeah, that's oh
It
my
sucks.
God, it's rough. Like just thinking about and just hearing the person talk about it, because you feel that emotion and then like it brings that person back. So like it hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts both ways.
Yeah, and eventually, that pain, I guess you want to put it down there. Not only does it affect you emotionally, but it starts affecting you physically as well.
Yeah, because you don't get sleep and everything like that. So you're just up late all the time.
Yeah.
It affects your work too.
Yeah.
Like how is that? Because nobody really talks about that. Everyone's just like, oh, you just go throughout your
Yeah,
day.
I think that's one of, actually, to be honest with you, and it may sound like weird to say, I think it's one of the things that made me a better teacher, because I appreciated the little kids in front of me,
Because you didn't get to have.
because I didn't get
one
to
of
have
your
my
own.
own.
So is that were you teaching at that point?
I had just started.
Wow, it's
Yeah.
so weird
Yeah,
how
I
that
had
works.
just started.
So yeah, when you saw those little kids, I mean, what grade were you in them?
Back then I had started with I had both 6th and 8th grade.
Sixth
And then
eighth,
about 2
okay.
weeks into it, I got taken out of 6th grade and only had 8th grade.
Okay.
And I had back then there's different designations, but they were special education children, very smart, but emotionally disturbed.
Okay.
Which
yeah.
was interesting, because here you are, me, coming off of a tragedy, working with other children that are just as emotionally disturbed as I was.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And you probably connected with them
I
so much.
connected with those kids so much.
Did anyone have like a crazy story like you?
Yeah, a few of them did. Quite a few of them did. There was one. There was this one kid. I won't mention his name. I think it was the second day of school that I met him, and I asked him to do something. He just turned around and said, "Fuck you, I'm not doing it." And I
Damn.
looked at him and I said, "Not now, but maybe later." That kid became my best friend.
Not now, maybe later. That's what you got to do
Yeah,
sometimes.
because he looked at me and he could not read me at
Yeah.
all, but he became my best friend.
That's sick.
I could have asked that kid to go knock out somebody, and he would have done it for me.
How did that
close we got.
connection start though with you guys?
It started right then and there when he told me to go fuck myself.
Oh, right then and there.
Right
and
then
then
and there.
when you said that
And when
response,
yep.
and he just respected
Then
you right
he
away.
respected me right then and there, because he was known in the school to be a pain in the ass and to like rile teachers up and get them yelling and screaming and all that. And I wasn't gonna fall into that.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy because you were basically like a rookie at that point.
Yeah. I was a brand new teacher.
So you were that might have helped.
Right.
You still had that
I still
young
had that
spirit in you.
That young spirit. Yeah.
Not that you don't have it now.
Right. Yeah. I think I have it more now than I did back then.
Probably at this point.
I think through my 40s. But going back before we go into my 40s, and I think also the death, because around that time after when my wife had passed and that is when I actually had started putting on a lot of weight.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that makes sense.
And that's and that was also part of the depression and whatever else.
Yeah. How were you before that? Were you like?
I'm not gonna say I was thin, but I was not obese.
Mm-hmm. You were just like you had that little pop belly.
If you would have gave me 2 weeks at the gym, I would have been awesome.
Okay. So
yeah,
you were just like that average guy.
I was just that average guy. Mm-hmm. Not really a dad bod yet, but like less than a dad bod, but more than an athlete.
Okay. So was a dad bod popular back then? Because I feel like
never even heard it. That's something new that that's a new word that came up.
Yeah, because it just randomly started.
Yeah,
it was like, oh, I love the dad bod.
Yeah.
I was like, when did this happen?
When did that happen?
I was like, I'm getting in shape, and now people are like, oh, stay fat.
Yeah,
like, what is this?
Yeah.
Complete BS.
They like that little paunch in the front.
Yeah, it's
it's no longer about the six pack. It's about the what do they call it? Oh hell, I can't think of the name of it now.
Like a beer belly?
No, it's like the beer belly, but it's not a six pack. It's a keg.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's just because girls like to lay on guys, and then if their stomach is hard, like it's not comfortable.
It's not comfortable.
But they got that little belly, then they're like, okay, I don't even need a pillow at this point.
I need to find those girls.
That's mad funny. Yeah, so that's interesting to hear, like that you had a connection in school during like your younger age.
Yeah.
And then
it's been I have no complaints about my teaching profession at all. I have to say I loved every single minute of it.
That's awesome that you did. Yeah. Especially that I love that how you compared like the death of your wife and whatever your child, I don't know if it was a boy or a girl.
It was a boy.
A boy. So that's weird too. Yeah. Wow, that I mentioned that.
Ray Jr.
Ray Jr. Wow, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Ray Jr.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good name.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's interesting because we just mentioned how like the kid who told you to go fuck yourself was a boy too.
Yeah.
And that connection there with your kid and then all those kids, it's really interesting to see that. And then what happened in your 40s? Like what was your connection then?
I'm gonna say through the 40s and my early 50s and that my connection was my career.
Okay.
That's all it was. Most teachers leave the building at 3:00. I was in my building until 6 or 7 o'clock at night.
Doing what, like preparing for lessons?
Lessons. That's the easy part. I ran clubs. I ran a robotics club. I had an engineering club. Mm-hmm. Really, I would say for a good 10, 12, 15 years, I was the only one that was doing clubs in my school.
Damn.
And I had them all. I had engineering. I had SimCity. I had robotics. I had a chess club. Mm-hmm. I had a game club.
Well, these were all like your hobbies
and a
too.
Movie club, right? These were all things that I was into also.
Mm-hmm. So for you to stay after was not hard,
right?
Especially that you had other people to do it with,
right? And just so that people, I'm not patting myself on the back or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I didn't get paid for any of that.
Oh, okay. So it was just all voluntary.
This was all voluntary.
That's awesome. Do you think your career helped you in those times of like your wife and your son?
Absolutely.
Because you had something to do.
Yeah. I was at work pretty much 12 hours a day, if not longer.
Yeah. So you had that distraction. Yeah. So you weren't just home all the time like, oh my God, what am I going to do with myself? Exactly. Like I have nothing to look forward to and everything like that. Yeah, so I'm sure those clubs helped too.
Yeah.
Like,
and a lot of those clubs were parts of competitions. So we also had things going on the weekends that we were competing against.
Oh, nice.
Stuff like that. So, I mean, all that stuff helped me
get past it.
has getting past that. But it also took my time away from me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know? Which I mean, looking back on it now, you know, hindsight's 20/20, so to speak. I'm not gonna say that I didn't like it because I loved it. Because if I didn't love it, I wouldn't have done it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wonder how much of that
Like you time
was
wasted.
Was wasted. I'm not gonna say wasted for the children, but it was a time waster for me.
Well, what would you have done in that free time?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you weren't doing, like, these were your hobbies.
Right.
So when you have your hobbies going all the time, those are probably the things that you wanted to do anyway.
Right.
So if you're going to go home, you would have no one to do these hobbies with.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It was just that they were younger.
Right.
You know, you didn't have those
Right.
people
Right.
your age that
And
you were
one
doing
of the
the
things I
hobbies
think
with.
that I liked about it too was that, you know, at the end of the day, I went home and I was on my own.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have to worry about feeding, clothing,
Which is awesome, honestly. It's,
other kids.
Like,
Which, you know, as I got older, you know, now that I'm older, I'm gonna say that I have no regrets about not having, you know, going out and having more children and that on my own. But I would make an awesome grandfather.
Sir Ray as the grandpa.
I would make an awesome grandfather.
Yeah, I feel like at this
I'd
point...
make a terrible father, but I would make a great grandfather.
Why do you say that?
Because I don't know. That's how I feel.
You just have the
I
feeling?
always, because I treat children very well. You know, whatever kid wants, I get. I would be the type that would, you know, when your mother or father says no, just come ask me.
That's why you're a terrible father.
Yeah,
Because you would just get your kid everything. Be like, Dad, can I have a chocolate bar? I'd be like, oh,
Yeah, right here.
get two.
Yeah.
One for me as well.
But my father was like that for a little bit too.
I'm the total opposite. I'd be like, you want a chocolate bar? Bro, no way.
Well, that's why you look like you and I look like me.
It's more the discipline part.
Yeah.
It's not even like about the food and everything. It's just that, like, when I'm doing like the birthday parties and everything, these kids, like, they are so annoying sometimes, especially when they get everything, even like the birthday boys and girls, because you know they asked for a party, so they got a party, and then they just badger you on and on about stuff.
I will tell you, and I will agree with that to a certain extent. That I think that as time has gone on, I mean, obviously I've noticed a change, you know, in how children are brought up and things like that.
Yeah.
More so on the South Shore, Staten Island.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Definitely self-entitled, to an extent, but not everybody. So you can't make that a blanket statement about the whole generation.
Yeah, it's definitely not everybody, but
Yeah.
it's more than normal.
Right.
I feel like, because I'm sure when you were growing up, like, I hear stories all the time, like, oh, my parents would have never been okay with that, but now it's more like an open time. I don't know what happened that this all changed, but
I don't know.
I got pretty lucky because I wasn't in that situation.
Well, I'll tell you, many years ago, my father had told me, he said, the best thing that could happen to my generation would be to experience a Great Depression and a World War. Because my generation had it too easy.
Your generation.
My generation. Now, imagine how easy your generation has it today. All right? Think about it. Seriously. Yeah, we all have our little problems and stuff like that. But, and as I got older, and I would say, in my head, I'm saying, Dad, you're full of shit. You have no idea what you're talking about. But as I got older, and I see what's going on, I see the wisdom in what my father was saying.
100%, because at this point, like, we have it way too easy.
When you're complaining about stupid stuff that has nothing to do with your life, these are all first world problems. You know, be thankful that you live in a country where, you know, what was on Instagram was down the other day, and people were going ape shit over it. Seriously?
Yeah. Oh, it's so weird.
You're worried about Instagram because you don't have to worry about putting food on your table.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. We have all this stress built up that over the years, I mean, when we were thousands of years ago, our stress was staying alive, you know.
Yeah.
Really big things like animals coming our way and killing us.
Putting a roof over your head.
The weather was crazy.
That was my father's generation thing, was food on a table and a roof over their head. That was what they worried about.
Yeah. And now we're at this point where we don't know what to worry about.
Yeah.
So we're
So we
worrying
look at
about
all these little things.
yeah, like, oh no, my phone, for some reason, I can't open up this app right now.
Oh my God, what am I going to do?
Yeah, it's so weird because we're not taught this. And, like, you have to just learn it when you get older.
Right.
And, like, I'm learning it now, but it's still very hard to appreciate everything because you're still not in that situation.
Right.
There's a lot of people when, you know, they go through things. And when they talk about it, you can genuinely hear it in their voice and their tone that, you know, like, oh, I am so thankful. Because you, like, a lot of people who grow up without, like, parents or something like that, and they're like, oh, I made it. And you know, there's a very broad spectrum of like what made it means.
Yes.
But it's basically like, oh, I got my job, I'm doing well for myself, I have a family, I have kids and everything, I'm the best father or mother that I could be because I didn't have those people. And it's very inspiring, but it's still like I can't feel that emotion.
Right.
That's why I like to put myself in difficult situations. Like that's why I really am striving to get my foot better at this point so I could run another marathon or do something crazy because like, you know, even though like that's all mental where I'm putting myself in that situation.
Yeah.
Because
I'll say that I see a difference in your generation and the millennial generation because you're not really a millennial. You're
I'm
Gen Y, I think they're calling you guys now. Or
either
Gen X.
Y or Z.
No, Gen X is earlier.
I think
Gen
Z. Yeah.
I think Gen Z. I don't know where they came up with this. What are you going to do next one? Gen A1?
Yeah, why would you start at the end of the alphabet?
Yeah, I don't get that. I think that, and I'm not just saying it because they're young, because I taught the kids that are considered the people today that are considered to be millennials. All right? And they were not that bad when they were in junior high school. Now, I don't know what happened to them in high school or what happened to that generation. I think it's college, to be honest with you.
It might have just been the start of technology.
It could have been the start of technology, this thing with social media that drives people crazy.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that social media should really start doing is that rather than have screen names, you have to put your own name on it. You have to have your name on it, a phone number, or something like that, because then there won't be any of this more nonsense about saying stuff online without a consequence.
That's interesting because there are a lot of fake profiles and stuff like that. I mean, there are movements though with Instagram and Twitter where it's like funny accounts and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's the only hard part. But I feel like if you linked your account to another account, and it would have like your name of your actual name on it, like you're held accountable.
There has
like
to be some kind of accountability for what you say online.
Yeah, there really should be because
this way you can't go like the other day. I don't know. I responded to some post. I don't even know what the post was, but then somebody sent me a DM that called me a racist and said, "Hopefully you'll have 2 bullet holes put between your eyes."
Wow.
Now, what are you responding to? Because there was no context of what post that you're talking about, and number 2, who are you to say something like that?
Yeah.
Again, because it's anonymous.
Yeah, you can't do anything about it.
You know, I told him, "Oh, thank you very much, and happy Thanksgiving to you too," and I blocked him.
Yeah, that's how you gotta do it.
I mean, it could be a woman too.
Yeah, it's
you know,
you gotta kill
it's probably some 900-pound idiot, in his mother's basement playing a video game. But who knows?
On board, and that's the thing. That's where it comes back to stress. Like, they got nothing else to do.
They have nothing better to do.
Yeah, I mean, their stress is not getting into that first game, whatever they're playing or losing and stuff like that.
Right.
It's quite interesting to see that because you don't know, like when you're out and about and you're doing your errands and stuff, you don't know who those people are.
Right.
So it's very interesting. Like I could have talked to like 3 people this whole week that could have been like that, but I don't know.
But you don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I always want to hear their story. Like those people. Like, where did you mess up?
Yeah.
What happened to you that you couldn't get out of your parents' house? It's so weird.
But you want to know something? Going back to the way I grew up, the way I lived, I didn't leave my parents. My parents left me.
Yeah, because of the war, right?
Yeah. You know.
So wait, what did you do during that time?
Growing up, when my parents got, and I was about to go out on my own and that, rents were very expensive. I was just starting out. I was still living at home with my parents. And I told my parents, you know what? We had a downstairs basement. I said, how about do you mind if I fix up the basement? I'm going to make it my apartment, and I'll take over the mortgage.
Oh, wow.
You know how much my parents' my mortgage was? $113 a month.
And what was rent?
Where was I going to live for $113 a month?
Yeah, what was rent at that point?
For a 1-bedroom apartment, it probably would have been about $950, $1,000.
What year was this?
That would have been, or maybe it wouldn't have been that much. That would have been in the early 80s, mid 80s.
And this is what, New York City?
This is
like
New York
Manhattan?
City. Yeah.
Okay. Huh. I didn't realize like how much a house would be in New York City. I mean, that mortgage is really cheap.
Yeah. Well, because my
113.
parents had bought it when I think my parents paid $17,000 for the house.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now it's a car right there.
Yeah.
That's a cheap
That's
car.
a cheap car. So I took over their mortgage. My parents passed away and left the house to me.
Wow. So you had a free. Wait,
Go me.
what age did they pass away?
How old was I? And they were my first deaths too. I had never experienced death until my mother and father passed away.
So this was before you got married?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oof, wow.
Yeah.
Your 20s was a rough time.
It was a rough period of time.
Damn. Yeah. That really builds that mental strength, honestly.
And again, so going into my 50s now was when I started having medical problems, and I had developed a blood clot in my leg, and I was rushed to the hospital. I was actually participating in a school activity, and I was up on stage with the students, and we were jumping around and I fell, and I couldn't get back up. And the ambulance came. It was I think it was more traumatic for the students than it was for me. Yeah. Because I kept telling, calm down, I'm all right, I'm just, it's the lights. In the meantime, in my inner body, I'm saying, okay, this is it. And I have to hold on so I can get out of here because I didn't want to die in front of them. I said, if this is my time, I'm saying to God, just let me die in the ambulance, not here. All right? Because again, thinking of the kids, it's traumatic enough to see a teacher fall and whatever.
Yeah, that'll mess up the whole school for the rest of the year.
So, and I didn't want the auditorium named after me or anything like that, because that's would have been where I died. So I'm in the hot now. It's funny in a way, a funny story that goes with this. It was a media show, and I was doing Boy George. So I was dressed up like Boy George. So I had makeup on.
Wait, what's Boy George?
Okay. Oh my God, you're such a Generation Z person. Boy George was a famous star. He was a pop star.
Okay.
Back in the day, you should look him up sometime. It's good music. And I was dressed up like him, so I had lipstick on, I had eyeshadow, I had like kind of like a dress that was pulled in like a shirt because he was transgender. Back, which was not a thing back then.
In the 80s?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was.
Yeah. He started the movement. And when I got into the ambulance, I started undressing. And the guy said, "What? You can't be moving around." I said, "No, because I know you people. You people will take a picture, and we'll go around the entire hospital saying, 'Look at this idiot dressed up like Boy George.'" I said, "I know you people." So he started laughing and actually started helping me take the makeup off of that. So anyway, I get to the hospital and they checked my leg out, and they said, "You are so lucky because right now you should be dead."
Damn,
because the blood clot had broken free from my leg, traveled up my leg, and lodged in the bottom of my spine.
And that's why you just collapsed?
Yeah. He said that because I had no feeling in my legs whatsoever. He said, "You're lucky that it didn't go to your lung. You're lucky that it didn't go to your heart because really you should be dead right now."
Wow.
So that was the start of my next journey.
Of your connection.
Of my connection with fitness.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool because that's what you're on right now.
That's where my connection is right now.
So is that when you started, like right after that?
Actually, to be perfectly honest with you, absolutely not.
It was
because it was about a year or two after that. I knew I had to do something,
but you didn't know.
But
I
didn't know what. And it just so happened that I happened to be at a restaurant, and one of the waiters was a former student, and I had been, been going to this restaurant for a while, and he had always served me, and he said, one night he came up to me and said, "Listen, I'm not going to be here after next week." And I said, "Oh, why? Did you quit? Where are you going now?" He said, "No." He says, "I'm starting my career now." He said, "I became a fitness instructor at LA Fitness."
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that's interesting. And, we talked back and forth, this, that, and the other thing. And I went home and I thought about it. And I said, you know what? I wonder how he would feel if I became his client.
Mm-hmm.
And I had texted him, I had written the text message about 4 or 5 times,
Mm-hmm.
changing it. I saved, added, deleted, went back to it, rearranged it. And I was actually going to, believe it or not, erase it, and I hit send by accident.
Wow, what a great mistake.
Yeah, it was one of the best mistakes I ever made. And he answered almost immediately, so which meant to me that I knew that he was not sure of not doing it. You know what I mean? That he was willing to do it.
He answered so quickly that he knew that.
And
was
he
it.
had asked. He said he had wanted to ask me.
But he felt uncomfortable.
But he felt uncomfortable doing it. He said because he didn't want me to think that he thought that I was fat or whatever. I still am in a little bit, but not as much as I was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm at now. So it's been a long transition to get to where I'm at today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's cool. It's honestly so awesome hearing a person's life that isn't my age, because there's so much more than just basically just school and like figuring out what you want to do, because mainly what I talk about with this podcast, like even when it's very deep things, I only have a connection to when I was in school and what I'm doing right now. Obviously,
right.
There's not much else I can talk about, and like family life and everything like that, but that's very basic.
Right.
That's like very borderline, like okay, everyone kind of understands that. So when you have like four huge deaths in a span of like 10 years,
mm-hmm.
like that really messes you up, and then you have to find that connection to something. Like you had a connection with your parents, and now, now they're gone. Now I have a connection to my wife. Oh, now she's gone.
Yeah.
What's next? What's that next step?
The next step was throwing yourself into your career.
Yeah,
at least for me it was, and that's what I did. And I worked for 35 years,
mm-hmm.
and I enjoyed every single minute of it. I loved it, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What did you think you would have done if it wasn't for that?
If I didn't become a teacher?
Yeah, like if you didn't have a career.
Well, I don't know. It's a good question. My teaching actually wasn't my first career. It was my second career.
Yeah, because you did computers.
Yeah, I did computers before that. I don't know. I probably, if I had not found out about teaching, I probably just would have been. I would have stuck with computers.
Do you feel more of a connection with your career with computers or teaching?
I'm gonna say with teaching.
Is it because of that human to human connection?
Yeah.
Because that's what I feel like now.
There's a thing with dealing with, especially with kids,
Mm-hmm.
And let me say it. Let me just add something right here before, because I don't want people to think about. I went to college and I went to grad school. I taught. I believe in education, but that I don't want anybody to think that you need an education to be successful. You could be just as successful without a college degree as if you had one.
Mm-hmm. It's refreshing to hear somebody older saying that.
Yeah.
Because you never really hear that.
No, you never really hear
that.
Right. The pushes.
Go.
There's such a tremendous push, and I think it's a bad push for kids to go to college.
It's a good push if they don't have any direction.
Right.
And they're good at school and they
But really, what I think that what anybody that's in high school now that graduates, anybody listening says you're graduating in June, the first thing you should do, go to work for a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just work.
Just work for a little bit and then go to college.
Yes.
I appreciated college as I got older than when I was younger.
Yeah, everyone says this to me right now. They're like, "Oh, it's so much harder going back when you get older.
It's actually easier.
Yeah, you're gonna have a family. You're gonna have more responsibilities." But I always say to them, I'm like, I don't have any part of me that wants to go back right
Yeah.
now. So if in the future, there are points in your life where you have to do something.
Right.
But I feel like in the future, if I have to do it, I'll have more of that connection where I can put myself in that situation and be like, okay, like this is what I have to do. And, there's so many different majors out there.
Right.
I don't understand how there's not one class in any high school that I've heard of where they go over majors and show which major.
What
leads
major?
to-
Yeah. What this does, what that does.
And there's a lot of things, obviously, in the future that are going to be obsolete because
Right.
of robots and
Right.
stuff like that.
Right.
So that's what I was actually thinking of today. Like, as I drive my car all the time, I'm like, wow, it would be great to be a mechanic. But I'm like, well, I mean, how much longer is our
How much
gas
longer are they
cars-
going to be around?
Yeah, it's all going to be electric
Yeah.
within like 20 years.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do? Screw myself
Yeah.
when I'm 40? I'm
Yeah.
going to be out of a job. And unless I can somehow adapt to an electric
Well, yeah.
car.
I mean, I remember growing up, and you actually went to school to learn how to be a cashier, and you went to school to learn how to type. And who does that anymore?
Everybody.
You know,
But they don't need the
but they
school
don't
for
need
it.
the schooling for it.
Yeah, wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah,
Why did they
imagine
need...
going to school to be a cashier.
Yeah, I need to ask you that. What did you do?
I don't know. I didn't take the class, but I remember the signs all the time in the buses and on the trains. I want to say it was Gibbs School of Typing and Gibbs School of Cashiering, but you had to be a cashier back then. I mean, it wasn't like today where everything had a barcode on it.
Mm-hmm.
You actually had to know the product and the price and put it in.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that makes
so you don't
sense.
know that.
Yeah, I was like, what do you have to? You just scan it and it goes.
No.
So wait, so they had
There was no scanning back then.
they had to know the actual. So say it was like, I don't know, just a book. Say they had a book. You had to know exactly what book it was and that price. Of
And the
book?
price for the book, yeah, you had to look it up. If it wasn't stamped on it, you had to look it up.
And where on the computer?
Yeah.
The-
No. On there were no computers back then.
So that's right. There was
I remember using my father's credit card. Dad, if I know you're up there listening to this, so your mom gave me permission. I would take my father's credit card and go to a store. And you know how today you put it in a machine?
Mm-hmm.
No, you put it on a flat bed and you used to rub it to get the numbers out off of it. And you used to have to sign the page. You used to fill in all the products that you by hand. They would fill in the products that you bought on this piece of paper.
Oh my god.
They would put the card down and they would pull this thing across it to emboss the numbers on and that. And then they would look up the numbers in a book to see if you were up to date on your payments.
Oh my gosh. How long was Christmas shopping?
Oh, back then, it's nothing like today.
Yeah, because
There was no Amazon.
Yeah, obviously today you just go on your laptop. You're like, okay, what do I want? Boom, click, done.
And done.
And now that, like, the amount of time that it takes me to
This
go
is where
find
this is where
something-
Black Friday came from that idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So like the whole thing was
The-
like everything's super cheap. We're
Yeah,
gonna get a lot of
and
people.
nobody was open up on Thursday. That was a big no back in the day.
Yeah, because I'm like, what is the point of Black Friday
Yeah.
now? I feel like no one goes.
There really is no point to it anymore. It was originally called Black Friday because that was the day that all businesses that had been in the red up until that point were all of a sudden making profits because everybody was out buying for the holidays.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it doesn't have the impact anymore that it does.
Yeah, because now it's just like, all right, here's one day a year where every business basically sells everything for
Right.
like the cost that they buy it for.
And I'm pretty sure that it was today that I read the briefly about Black Friday that they're up. It's over 20. It's up 20% more online shopping this year than last year because nobody goes to the stores anymore.
Yeah, no one does.
I don't go that kind of shopping. The first place I want to buy something, I go to Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I have to go to the store for is clothes, just because I don't know how it fits.
Right.
But other than that, I've never really gone to the store. Like, I don't have to go to Best Buy anymore to get something.
No, Best Buy used to be a weekly stop for me. I go in there at least once a week
because you had all like your tech stuff
between
and
the movies and all the tech stuff they had. Now, if I need to go to Best Buy, I look at Best Buy's website, and then I compare the price on Amazon. I usually end up going to Amazon.
Yeah, no, it's so
Amazon rules the world.
Yeah.
I mean, for better or for worse, this is the way it is.
Yeah, I'm always just looking at the actual whatever website it is,
Yep.
and then Amazon.
Mhm.
Like, what is it going to be better on?
Right.
And I don't understand how, like, the products, wherever they're selling it from, because obviously Best Buy puts their stuff on there. Like, how does Amazon and Best Buy both make money?
I don't know.
It
I
always,
really don't.
It always strikes me like, how does this work? Like,
Yeah.
where is my money actually going to? Is it?
You know, I always ask that also about PC Richardson's son.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how does that? How do they stay in business?
What is even there? Because isn't it there was like washing machines and dryers
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but also TVs
Yeah.
and mouses and stuff like that.
How do they stay? I don't get it. I don't know.
There's got to be a lot of deliveries that they do.
There's got to be.
That's got to be it.
Maybe it's the
because-
personal service. I don't know. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I really can't see. That's honestly, there's so many stores out there that I'm like, how is this still open?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think within, like, from now to like 2030, there's going to be a huge shift with how stores
it's
are.
it's already happening. It's already happening. I mean, Toys R Us is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Sears is gone. I mean, Sears was the store.
Yeah, see,
I
didn't know.
remember my parents going. I mean, Sears was like Amazon is
Mm-hmm.
today. I mean, I think that's a fair comparison.
I'm too young to even know.
Yeah.
I don't even recall.
And I can't even give you a store that you would be familiar with that would be like Sears to compare it to.
At this point, I have no
But
idea.
Sears was the Amazon
Yeah.
of their day.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like how exciting it was when I was a kid. Like my mom had to go run errands. You go to store to store.
Right,
to
right,
store.
right. Yeah.
And now it's
And
like,
now it's like,
all right, like go play on your iPad. I gotta
Yeah.
go do something on the computer. It's really interesting. So I got a question about this connection though. So was there any point where you felt more of a connection than any other time period?
I think I feel a bigger connection now with the health thing that I'm going through now, because now it's all about that. Especially since I retired. Yeah, I'm gonna say I have a bigger connection now with the idea of getting.
Is it just
more
because
healthy.
when you get older, like you have more? I guess I could say like you have more of a understanding of connection.
I don't know. I think it's because this is something that I should have done. I could have done when I was younger. I didn't appreciate that. But it wasn't a thing back then either. You know,
What,
going
working
to the gym and working out and stuff like that.
Really?
I mean, it was a little bit, but only like people like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno did it.
What
You
did
know?
people do?
No, there was no. I don't know. Well, none of my friends were ever into it. None of my friends ever lifted weight. I mean, they were all thin. You know, I mean, we were all relatively
So this is
thin
recent?
and healthy. So, for me anyway, the health and wellness thing is new.
Wow, that's so interesting because like I never thought about it that people started going to gyms
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
For me, my health journey started in 2013, so it's been 6 years now.
And what year do you think that gyms started to get more popular? Because I know I was talking to somebody the other day where in like the 2000s,
I was gonna say
they started with like
the
Zumba
big bucks,
and the classes and stuff.
I was
like
gonna
that.
say in the 2000s is when it really took off.
Oh wow! So yeah, I mean, you would. I guess yeah. Mainly all the stories that like my parents were telling me is just like I went outside, played with the kids on my block, and then went inside.
And that was your health and well being. That was your healthy exercise.
Yeah, no one was like, "Oh, I have to do my 45-minute workout today and make sure I burn enough calories." It was just like, "I'm gonna live. I'm gonna do what I need to do."
And a lot of people, not maybe my generation too. I don't know. A lot of people had manual labor jobs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of construction and stuff like that.
So that also, you know,
that was basically your exercise at that point.
right.
That's so strange. Wow. I think that your connection is stronger with the actual physical fitness is just because as humans went throughout history, a lot of it was just like, oh, like we don't have any transportation. It was just all walking and stuff like that.
Right.
And you have to do like all the manual labor and stuff like that. So it's kind of in our system to want to do it. Like our
Right.
career is new. The connection to a career is very strange because it doesn't involve us like hunting for food and stuff
Right.
like that, and that's
Right.
all we really did.
Right.
So it's all about like that, like you said, like the human connection. That's what brought you to teaching a
Yeah.
lot better
Yeah.
than anything else.
And I think that the reason I have such a strong connection to health and fitness now is because of the changes I've seen in myself since I've started.
The improvement.
The improvement. I mean, when I started, I was 404 pounds. I mean, can you imagine that?
I can't. It's so.
404.
It's weird
and
saying.
and now, even though I'm still large, I'm 267 now. So I mean, from 404 to 267.
what a difference. You ever think of that, like trying to pick up 130 pounds and just being
Yeah,
like,
I've tried it and I can't.
this is me.
I can maybe just do it, but I'd be straining myself.
Yeah, because there's
But but when I started, I mean, you have to realize that, when I was in school, going back to school, we were working school. I would stop by. I would be walking in the hallway, and everybody thought I was being sociable by stopping and saying hello in their classroom and that. I was not being sociable. I was stopping so I can catch my breath.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So instead, like people are like, "Oh, this guy's so nice."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you were
I wasn't
like,
being nice. I was in there to sit down so I can catch my breath from walking down the hallway.
and that was at 404.
That was
basically?
at 404.
Wow.
Right.
I can't believe it took you a whole year or two to start the journey.
Yeah, to start the
that
journey
scare.
after that scare. Yeah,
What what were you on? Like they had to give you some medication. Or
Yeah, I was
something
on.
like
I was on Coumadin,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a blood thinner. And about 2 years after that, I guess they every 6 months I had a Doppler, and that's they would measure the thickness of the blood going through your veins and stuff like that. And the doctor said, you know what, let's just do a whole battery of tests in that, and all the tests came back in that, and all I know is that they started writing out 12 different types of medications.
Mm-hmm.
And when and I just sat there, and again, and this is a problem with the medical industry and big farm and everything else. At no time did any doctor ever tell me that I should lose weight.
Such a strange thing.
Yeah, I want to repeat that. At no time did any doctor ever tell me that I should lose weight.
Yeah, because they make money off of writing.
Here's a pill.
Yeah.
This will solve that problem. Here's a pill. This will help you there.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got the 12 medications and I went home, is when my student had said to me about leaving. It was like the perfect storm. It all happened within the same time frame.
Yeah, it's so weird because when you're looking back at it, you're probably like, "Oh, I should have started right away." But the way it worked out was actually better.
The better way.
Because you probably would have started doing some type of physical activity, and then you would have gotten bored, and then that was
Right.
it. You would have went back up. You would have went higher
right,
that way.
because after that, when I started LA Fitness, that's how I met Donnie, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and now now what is that? 130 pounds.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
130 pounds down.
I would really like to lose another 20. If I can get myself to 240, I'd be very happy.
Yeah.
Because there's no way I'm never going to be that 185. First of all, I don't have the bone structure.
Mm-hmm.
And if I got even my new doctor, who is very encouraging about the working out and that, said a good weight for you is going to be about 220.
Mm-hmm. When was the last time you were 240?
I don't know. My 20s, maybe.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a long time. It's basically me.
I'm actually healthier now than I've ever been.
I'm sure, yeah, because you're eating better foods. You think that was
except
probably...
for yesterday.
Yeah, Thanksgiving. That never happened.
All bets go out the window.
But do you think that's the rise in obesity, that we didn't actually have gyms? It was more like you just go do stuff?
I think there's a bunch of different things, and I think that as a person that was heavy is still kind of heavy, There's definitely a sugar addiction in this country, and it's a
100%.
legal addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at the things that are targeted to kids. And one of the things that upset me most are seeing parents with their obese kids just letting them eat crap. And I want to reach out, and I mean, they're not my kids, but I just want to say, because there was a time actually in school, I used to have the kids up for lunch, and I banned soda.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me this.
When I had started my health fitness journey and I was still working, I had banned. Nobody was allowed to have soda in my classroom. And that was a problem even for me because I was addicted to soda. When I tell you I had, on average, 4 or 5 2-liter bottles a day of Pepsi. And let me say that again: 4 or 5 2-liter bottles of Pepsi a day.
What is that like in gallons?
I have no idea, but it's a lot. Because I would have a Pepsi when I got up in the morning.
With breakfast.
With breakfast, take my shower, come out, have another Pepsi, have a Pepsi in the car on the way to work.
So that's 3.
Yeah, I'd have a Pepsi before work while I'm sitting in the classroom getting ready.
That's 4.
Pepsi throughout the day, at least 2 or 3 for lunchtime, and then more in the afternoon. And then I'd have whatever fast food I ordered because I was staying at work until, at school, and more Pepsi. And Pepsi when I got home, Pepsi on the way home, Pepsi when I got home, Pepsi before I went to bed. Oh yeah, I was a single buyer of Pepsi. But that's the way it was back then. That's what I did.
It's interesting that you say that when you see like a parent with a kid who is obese, like they're both obese.
Yeah.
And I want to bring it back to when you said like I would have been a terrible father because you would have been one of those.
Yeah, I
people.
would have been. I probably would have been one of those parents.
Yeah. So it's
and
very
really
strange.
these parents don't realize they're killing their kids.
Oh yeah, by the second. They're every single time they're shoving sugar and shit. Because yesterday when I was at my aunt and uncle's house, they're not related. Like I'm related to my uncle. My aunt's actually adopted, so we're not blood related.
Right.
So her sister and her nephews and whatever, they had a baby. She's 3, and she wouldn't eat the soup. She had Fruit Loops before it, but she wouldn't eat any of the soup. She would barely have the bread and everything. And I was like, for me, like I wouldn't even give Fruit Loops to my kids to start out.
No.
What I basically would do is just say, all right, this is the food that I eat. It's all natural, vegetables, meat, whatever. If you don't want to eat meat, that's fine. That's your choice.
That's your choice, right?
But like, this is what I'm gonna eat, so this is what's gonna be on the dinner table.
Yep.
When you go out with friends and stuff, yeah, go ahead, eat whatever you want.
Yeah.
But in this house, I'm not gonna have
Right.
this stuff. I'm not gonna be tempted to eat it all the time.
It's funny that you mentioned Fruit Loops because Fruit Loops is one of my favorite cereals.
They're good.
I love Fruit Loops. But yeah, I see these kids. Yeah, I see these parents just shoving this garbage in their kid's face, and it's
Horrible.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it's just gross too.
Yeah.
Seeing it, like when you see kids with just sugar, like when they have candy and they're shoving in their mouth,
Right.
you're like, wow, they're not going to eat anything else for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to be judging the parents in my head. I can't tell them how to parent.
Right. Yeah. You
It's
can't.
the worst thing.
It's
They
the worst
gotta,
thing.
They just got to learn with their ways. And
But it's too bad that it's the kid that's going to pay the price.
yeah, it's the kid that's going to pay the price, and it sucks because they're not developing how they should develop.
Right.
They're developing on terrible nutrition because it's not real food, and then the real food that they're getting isn't even
real.
It's all factory farmed
Right.
and shit
Right.
like that. So
it's all that McDonald's and Burger King and
oh my
all that
god,
other
yeah, it's all
stuff
the
that
fast
people
food.
think is real food because it's meat, and that's not real.
No,
That is not grass-fed beef.
Yeah, they're like, oh, Wendy's.
And listen to me talking about grass-fed beef because that's all I eat now.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure you still have your little McDonald's.
I still have my
splurge.
once in a while. I'll do the I love the egg McMuffin and cheese. I love those. But I'll have that, as opposed to having it like all the time. Maybe I have it once a month or something like that.
That's really good. That's awesome. Just
You
to
got to
be able
live. You have to live, but you don't live to eat that food.
Yeah, for me, I was thinking this to myself the other day. I was like, all right, I gotta start eating like more bad food right now because I know by like 30, 35, I'm going to be really strict in my diet.
Yeah.
And the only reason why is because when you're 30, 35, that's when it's like, all right, like that cheeseburger that I had last night at like 11 p.m. right before I went to bed, that is really just sitting in my stomach right now. It does not.
That's
feel
not
good.
going anywhere.
Yeah, that sucks. So when you like, I mean, I think I'm realizing things a lot better. I think it is because of like social media and technology and stuff like that. Even though like social media isn't that great, you know, like scrolling down Instagram or Twitter, you know, you learn like one good thing out of your whole week.
Right, you learn stuff. Right.
So like it's good in that sense, but there's a lot of times like yesterday for Thanksgiving, I mean, I was just really bored. I had nothing to do, so I was just scrolling on my phone the whole day, and it sucks because I don't want to do that to myself. But there just comes a time where I'm like, all right.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm guilty of that as well because my entire life is on this phone.
Yeah.
I pay my bills, my insurance.
Yeah, I don't know how to do life without a phone at this point.
Yeah, I'd be going back to the dog ages.
It's nearly impossible. Oh, I forgot. We had the second question. What touches your soul and impacts you profoundly? I feel like that is kind of very similar to the connection.
Yeah.
I feel like we did answer that.
Yeah, I think we did.
It's kind of just like an add-on to the question.
In a long, convoluted way.
Yeah. Well, we're an hour in. So
wow.
Sadly, we have to end
An hour.
This. Yeah, right?
Seems like 10 minutes.
Everyone says that. Like, when you're on this side, like, I'm always looking at the time because I'm like, all right, we have to get to a specific time, but we can't go too far over. One of my friends was like, oh, why don't you just cover it off? Because I'm like, yo, I'd go 2 hours without even knowing.
Right, yeah.
I want to be able to keep it to a point where it's
Have you ever heard of Mike Matthews?
No.
Okay, you should definitely listen to him.
Podcast?
He does a podcast, and it's all about health and wellness.
Oh, cool, nice.
Yeah, you should definitely listen to him. I got a lot of good information from that guy.
Just from, like, working out and stuff?
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, let's get this fact. Let's see. All right, a bolt of lightning contains enough energy to toast 100,000 slices of bread.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Oh, can I give myself a self-plug here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to plug myself here. Coming in January, there are 2 new YouTube channels.
Okay.
One is called Sir Ray, and that is all science-based. And the other one is Sir Ray Fitness, which is up and running now. In fact, I'm going to put this podcast on my channel.
Cool.
And but that channel will also be going live in January. So look it up, Sir Ray's Fitness and Sir Ray, and I'll send those over to you so you can put them as a link.
Yeah, definitely. Put that in the
now
link
it's
in
all
the
numbers
description.
and letters and stuff like that. They don't do it by name anymore.
Oh, like with the link and everything?
Yeah. YouTube's getting weird.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I don't know. There's probably too many links at this point.
Probably. So.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. And
yes, absolutely. It was great.
I'm excited to hear about your science and fitness page soon.
Thank you.
No problem.